And guys, we're talking the AFC. The biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC. Willie, I'll start with you.
Man, there's a lot of good teams in the offseason that did a lot through the draft and in free agency, but I got to go with the Baltimore Ravens. A disappointed Baltimore Ravens that they wasn't playing in the Super Bowl. They got surprised after the bye week by the Tennessee Titans. Let me just tell you this. The Baltimore Ravens are a team of attitude. Guys, a lot of guys on that team have chips on their shoulder. We know they have the #1 running game in the whole league, averaging 206 yards. They're going to be physical up front. They're going to continue to run the football. Greg Roman is going to add to the things that he did a year ago with Lamar Jackson. I expect Lamar Jackson to be a better passer this year, throwing the ball from the pocket. They added a little help at the receiver position. Defensively, Wink Martindale, my guy, the defensive coordinator, got that middle linebacker he's been looking for to replace C.J. Mosley and Patrick Queen. They bring over Calais Campbell. They re-sign Matthew Judon. They bring over Derek Wolfe. Listen, this team got better in the offseason. This team is feeling like they left a lot out there last year, and they got disrespected, and they disappointed themselves and them fans by not going to a Super Bowl and winning it, because that's all they were talking about. So I'm going to say that the Baltimore Ravens are gearing up to be that team to get a Kansas City Chiefs problem.
That's a good one, Willie. It's hard to go against that one. The Baltimore Ravens are stacked. But I'm going with the team you just mentioned before that in your conversation, the Tennessee Titans. And let's remember, guys, this team is coming off an AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs where they felt like they had the game won. And then also, they beat them during the season. So
you know Ryan Tannehill is the quarterback, right, LT? You know it's Ryan Tannehill. This ain't Tom Brady. This ain't no big, but you know that, right?
You know why I like them? It's all about the identity and makeup of this football team. They returned pretty much everybody but Jack Conklin. That he left in free agency. He's in Cleveland right now. But they drafted Isaiah Wilson, the tackle from Georgia. So this team is virtually the same. And Willie, I love what your former teammate Mike Vrabel has done with this team. It really reminds me of your old teams. Physical, discipline. And at the end of the day, they're going to play their brand of football. I think that matches up well with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Guys, I'm gonna pick the Indianapolis Colts. I love Phillip Rivers. I love the fact that they have Phillip Rivers there now. And then they have this kid, Jonathan Taylor, out of Wisconsin, over 6,000 yards running the football in college. I mean, LT, you can appreciate that. This kid definitely turned on these past couple of years. And then I love what I saw at the combine out of Jonathan Taylor. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's a 3-down back. And that gap scheme run, right? The fact that he can get behind a pulling lineman like Quentin Nelson, who epitomizes what physicality is on the front line of this Indianapolis Colts offense. And then I like what they did on the defensive side of the ball. DeForest Buckner, he's going to add some attitude to that defensive front. And then you obviously have Darius Leonard controlling things at the linebacker level. So those are our choices and our picks of the teams that will dethrone the Kansas City Chiefs.
So that's the AFC, but let's switch it around to the NFC here because they are loaded with talent. Obviously, the 49ers are going to try and get back to the Super Bowl. So, Kurt, who is their biggest threat in the entire NFC?
Well, I'm going to take a look at a team that's been right there knocking on the door for the last couple of years, and that's the New Orleans Saints. When you look at their roster, they didn't really lose anybody. They pick up Emmanuel Sanders. They bring back Malcolm Jenkins, two guys that I believe leadership-wise will add to this football team. Drew Brees signed a couple-year contract. We know that they're kind of a desperate team, too. Not only hungry because they've been knocked out in some crazy ways the last few years, but hungry because Drew Brees has only been to one Super Bowl. Got all this talent around me. He wants another run at this thing. So I love the way that they're positioned. I love the talent that they have, the game changers, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, and obviously Brees, who I mentioned. So I'm going to say if there's one team that I think can push the envelope and is vying for a Super Bowl or bust, that's the New Orleans Saints.
It's a no-brainer for me. I have to go with the Minnesota Vikings because when you talk about the 49ers being a threat, well, you got to talk about the teacher, and that's Gary Kubiak, who is now the offense coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. And Gary Kubiak believes in running the ball. And what does Kyle Shanahan believe in? Running the ball as well. So what can derail everything for the Minnesota Vikings is if their defense doesn't step up. for the last 2 years, their defense hasn't been the defense that we have grown to love and see. They've given up a lot of plays. They've had a lot of errors. But we know they run the ball so effectively that it gives their defense an opportunity to rest. But for some reason this year, they just haven't been able to get it done. So that is the only thing that can stop them, which is themselves.
Yeah, several good options. All those are good. It's hard because it's so early, but when you look at the moves that were made in the offseason, there's one team that kind of stands out for me, and it's the Dallas Cowboys, ironically enough. I know there's been some issues with Dak and kind of jumping on the team and really kind of jumping into Zoom meetings and being part of that. But I think outside of that, what they did on the defensive side has been fantastic. Bringing in HaHa Clinton-Dix, Gerald McCoy to solidify that 3 technique inside, take a chance on Alden Smith on the outside. Maybe he can get after the passer. And now you've added all those guys now to an already pretty good defense up the middle. Linebacker crew is really good. Secondaries is decent. So I like what they did on that side. And then the biggest move of the offseason, it was really unexpected. And I've kind of been a proponent of giving Amari Cooper another guy next to him that can take some pressure off of him from a matchup standpoint. And they went out and they grabbed CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb, for me, is a dynamic player. He's going to pair perfectly on the other side with Amari Cooper. And he's going to give, if it's not Dak, Andy Dalton's going to roll in there and throw for 5,000 yards, it seems like. But then you got Zeke on top of that. You know, there's some questions at the offensive line. They got to kind of solidify that with some guys departing. But, you know, for me, the Cowboys look like they're in prime position to really make a run at this thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.